today's topic is management of incidental gallbladder cancer. And we have covered incidental and early gallbladder cancers before, but for the sake of this talk, we'll be covering only incidental GBCs and how to diagnose, how to predict, and how to manage them. So, a bit of epidemiology. India has a large incidence of gallbladder cancers. We are second after Chile. It's probably the Gangetic belt that has the highest incidence. And a majority of them, unfortunately, when they reach doctors, they are already metastatic. And even those who come as resectable disease, they don't do great either, because almost 2/3 of them recur within 2 years. So the overall prognosis of gallbladder cancer, once you pass the past stage 1 probably, is not very great. And untreated, of course, 5 year survival is 0%. So it's an aggressive tumor, and the message is that you prevent it and you diagnose it as early as possible so that the survivals are better. This is the very well-known TNM classification. This is the 8th edition, where they have divided the T2 group into two, whether the peritoneal side is involved or the hepatic side is involved. The nodal stations have now been divided by number instead of the region of the nodal involvement. And an easier way to remember is this figure, which shows that the TIS is only the mucosal involvement, T1A is lamina propria, T1B is muscularis, T2A is involvement of the connective tissue on the peritoneal side, T2B is on the hepatic side, T3 is involvement of liver and involvement of one or more extrahepatic organs, and T4 is when you involve the bile duct, the hepatic artery, or the portal vein. So this is a pictographical depiction of the TNM classification. Now, in this talk, what are the learning objectives? We need to know what is incidental gallbladder cancer, what is missed gallbladder cancer. Then we need to know how to prevent incidental and missed GBC. What is the preoperative assessment and planning for resectable gallbladder cancer? And what is the role of laparoscopy, PET scan, and chemotherapy in these cases? So the early and locally advanced gallbladder cancers are divided on the basis of T and N stations. Up to T2 is early, beyond T2 and node positive disease, T is locally advanced disease. Incidental gallbladder cancer is when it is diagnosed on histopath post-operatively or on the gross examination. So it is essentially a gallbladder cancer which was not suspected previously, and there was no clinical or radiological finding that could predict it. Missed gallbladder cancer, on the other hand, had all the signs suggestive of gallbladder cancer. It is the clinician who has missed it, or the histopath has not been sent. So these are the patients who usually present with either a local recurrence or metastatic disease, and the overall outcome is poor. So when to suspect a gallbladder cancer? There are 3 types of risk factors for gallbladder cancer: gallbladder related, systemic, and environmental. Now, for the sake of this talk, we'll be concentrating on the gallbladder related because those are the ones which are preventable, detectable, and the systemic and environmental factors are practically non-modifiable. So it is the gallbladder related factors that we will be concentrating on. And these are what I personally call high risk gallbladders. So when you come to gallstones, that is the most common risk factor for gallbladder cancer. If you have long-standing gallstones, if you have large stones that are bigger than 3 centimeters in size, or if you have stones, if you have a patient that has recurrent cholecystitis, these patients are prone for developing gallbladder cancer, and you may end up finding a small tumor when you do a laparoscopic cholecystectomy. Gallbladder polyps, again, there are multiple studies on gallbladder polyps that show the epidemiology. Gallbladder polyps are practically existent in nearly 3% of the population overall. But when the gallbladder polyps are symptomatic, or when they are more than 10 millimeters in size, or if you are serially studying the patient and over a period of time the size has kept on increasing, gallbladder polyps which are sessile, associated with focal thickening of the GB wall, that show restricted diffusion on MRI, tumor markers are raised. These are the ones which are more likely to be turning out malignant, and you need to treat them as malignant lesions upfront. Now, another this thing is porcelain gallbladder. As you can see, porcelain gallbladders can be seen on plain X-rays also sometimes. But of course, the diagnostic modality is CT, and you can see nicely calcified wall of the gallbladder all around. And it is said that the chronic inflammation and dystrophic calcification is the reason behind development of dysplasia. And it is porcelain gallbladder and gallbladder cancer are two manifestations of the same disease. It is not the porcelain GB per se which develops into a gallbladder cancer. Now, another finding is irregular gallbladder wall thickening, and again, it is better appreciated on a cross-sectional imaging, whether it be it CT or MR. And this patient had a irregular wall thickening. He underwent a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, and the gross specimen did not show any lesion at all when unopened. But once we opened the specimen, you can see that there is this irregular thickening, and the histopath turned out to be a T1B disease. He went on to have a radical cholecystectomy, and there was no residual disease during that. So good that there was no incident prior to the surgery, and we'll see why. So once you have an incidentally diagnosed gallbladder cancer, if there is no distant disease, it is the T stage that guides the treatment. TIS and T1A, you have done a laparoscopic cholecystectomy without causing any biliary spillage, then you have done enough. If the margins are negative, nothing more needs to be done. The patient just needs to be monitored serially. Anything beyond T1B, if the patient is fit, these patients deserve re-resection. And T4 generally is not incidentally diagnosed because inherently these patients present with advanced disease. So incidental diagnosis of T4 is practically unknown. Now, what is the aim of re-resection? The first and foremost, the re-resection is a staging procedure more than a therapeutic procedure. This is what we need to understand, because your re-resection will give you the final T stage, the final nodal stage. So rather than treating re-resection as a treatment for gallbladder cancer, is more of a staging procedure. And of course, you remove all the residual disease. Now, T stage of the primary gallbladder removal of the cholecystectomy, that is the strongest predictor of finding residual disease. As the T stage increases, in T3, you can have up to 77% residual disease. And if the gallbladder, if the common bile duct is involved, the margin is involved, then up to 30% patients will have residual disease at the time of re-resection. So if the patient comes with T1A disease, you just do a simple cholecystectomy, that is enough. T1B and beyond, you have multiple options. You can just do a wedge resection. You can remove segment 4B and 5. You can do extended right hepatectomy, excision of the extrahepatic bile duct, multi-organ resection. But time and again, it has been proven that it is the negative margins that are important. So a wedge resection has equivalent outcomes to segment 4B and 5 resection. In olden days, we used to do segment 4B, 5 for all patients. But studies have proven that the survivals don't improve drastically. If you only do a wedge resection, that should be enough if the margins are negative. Major hepatectomy is again only indicated if a negative margin is the aim. Routine bile duct resection is not recommended unless it is for negative margins. And the staging laparoscopy is must prior to re-resection. Irrespective of the T stage, whether it is T1B, T2, or T3, you must have a staging laparoscopy prior to taking up the patient for re-resection. Now, why T1B? I mean, essentially T1A and T1B is just a matter of, one small layer. But then the posteriorly on the hepatic side, the serosa is absent. So T1B disease has more propensity to spread early, and there is high incidence of nodal disease, high incidence of perineural invasion, and up to 24 times higher recurrence rates, all because of this anatomical defect that gallbladders have. So the mortality in T1B is much higher as compared to T1A, and this is why all patients with T1B need to undergo a re-resection with a radical cholecystectomy. Now, port site metastasis. Again, in the olden days, port site resection was a common procedure done during radical cholecystectomy. But it has been proven that port site metastasis is only, an indication that it's a peritoneal recurrence, and there is no added advantage. There is no survival advantage because these patients will anyways end up with peritoneal metastasis within 6 months. So again, port site metastasis, port site resection is not really recommended at this point in time. Biliary spillage, it's a very common occurrence during difficult cholecystectomies, especially in presence of gallbladder cancers. So you should avoid biliary spillage. And if you have a biliary spillage, then it's already a systemic disease and the survivals go down drastically. So how to prevent incidental or missed gallbladder cancers? One thing is you should have a high index of suspicions preoperatively in endemic areas. In New Delhi, in Uttar Pradesh, in Bihar, there are families affected all throughout with gallbladder cancers. So in such areas, you need to have a high preoperative suspicion that this patient might have a gallbladder cancer harboring in stones. Secondly, you should have a liberal use of tumor markers, imaging, and PET scan to rule out any distant disease or advanced disease at the time of surgery. Once you put in a scope for gallbladders or even for laparoscopic cholecystectomies, it is desirable to completely evaluate the peritoneal cavity and not miss out on small lesions, small peritoneal seedlings. Of course, you should avoid gallbladder perforations during surgery. And you should always use endo bags for retrieving specimens. There are surgeons, especially the more aggressive surgeons, who just remove the gallbladders from the umbilical ports. It is completely not recommended because that will lead to port site contamination and peritoneal recurrences. Always open the specimen before the patient is extubated. Always open the specimen to inspect the mucosa. And always send the specimen for histopathology. And of course, you should have a low threshold for referral. Don't keep it as a matter of ego that I should not be referring a patient because I am a senior surgeon. Finally, it is the patient who is important, and you should always have a low threshold for referring these patients to higher and high volume centers. Now, as part of preoperative assessment, we do all of these investigations, 3D reconstruction CTs, triphasic CTs, MRI, MRCP. But in all these are for when patients present with an advanced disease and you have already diagnosed a gallbladder cancer on the histopathology of the primary gallbladder, and the patient has come up symptomatic after a interval in between. When you come to nodal clearance, minimum 6 nodes are needed for accurate staging, and it is the hepatoduodenal nodes that must be clear. These are the older level 1. In TNM 7th edition, these are the ones which are classified as N1. So these are the ones that need to be cleared. These N2 nodes, they portend practically a advanced disease, and if these are involved, then patient is not a candidate for surgery. So N1 nodes, you may consider resecting them upfront, or if the imaging shows enlarged HDL nodes, then you can give these patients neoadjuvant chemotherapy to improve the outcomes and select the patients for re-resection. N2 nodes, these patients will never come for surgery and will probably go in for palliative chemotherapy. Bile duct resection, as a matter of routine, it does not improve survival, does not improve the nodal yield. It only increases the morbidity. So the only time when you should be doing bile duct resection is when the cystic duct margin is positive, or if you are suspecting, if you are seeing gross disease on the bile duct and you need an R0 resection. A lot of patients turn up with jaundice, and majority of these who have undergone prior laparoscopic cholecystectomy present with advanced disease. They present with hilar blocks or mid-CBD strictures. They present with periportal lymphadenopathy. So frequently they do end up having a common bile duct resection, but 40% of these resections also end up with positive margins. So it is very important that jaundice patients undergoing surgery is a very small subset, because even if you have an R0 resection, the survival is less than 6 months, probably because of the inherent aggressive nature of the disease. And morbidity and mortality is twice as much as those without jaundice. These are the general prognostic factors for operated gallbladder cancer: the T stage, margin status, and independent variables are the nodal status and tumor grade. As we have seen for all tumors, the poorly differentiated ones do worse than the well differentiated ones. Now, role of PET scan. PET scan alters management in up to 38% of cases. So whenever you have a incidental gallbladder cancer, be it T1 or T1B or T2, it is desirable to have a PET scan so as to rule out any metastatic disease that would preclude resection. And same is the case with staging laparoscopy. It has a very high yield to detect peritoneal metastasis, and especially in presence of a T3 disease or a poorly differentiated tumor, the incidence of peritoneal metastasis is very high. So the take-home message is that you should always avoid missing out on gallbladder cancer. You should work up the patients adequately, and if at all you have a truly diagnosed incidental gallbladder cancer, then you need to stage the patient completely before taking up for surgery. There is definite role of laparoscopy and PET scan during the preoperative workup, and the extent of hepatic dissection depends mainly on the T stage. There is very limited role of bile duct resection and multivessel dissection in these cases. So the final message to all surgeons, be it a young surgeon who's recently started doing laparoscopy or be it an old experienced surgeon, you should always know the limits of your expertise. Like Wagleser always likes to say, primum non nocere. You should first think of the patient and do no harm. That should be the motto behind operating all patients. And when you are in doubt, preoperatively or even intraoperatively, it is better to either defer the surgery, work the patient up completely, or if you know that this is beyond your expertise, you can refer the patient to a higher center. There is no doctor who can treat everything, and it is okay to be humble enough to accept that.